Vivek Ramaswamy is here with us. Any supporters of Vivek in here? Okay. Big debate last night. I think I would call it vintage debate. You went after everyone on the stage. What was the goal of last night's performance? Was it to win people over, or were you trying to expose each individual candidate?
Well, look, I would say neither of the above for an individual debate. The goal of the debate is to speak the truth in an unvarnished way. My whole political strategy in this campaign of how we're going to win in the end is speak the hard truths, especially those that the media is unwilling to confront. And so I'm the only candidate on that stage who's really able to speak without that special interest corporate filter. That's what I continued to do last night. I think a lot of what we exposed were a lot of the hypocrisies and double standards applied to different candidates. But I think the people at home deserve to see every candidate for who they are. This is an important process. And you know what? I'm not going to be playing with kid gloves with Xi Jinping when I'm dealing with him. We're not going to do the same thing in an election either. So that's what the debates are about. And then we're going to Iowa later today where we're going to have, I think, more grassroots, different kind of context. And so there's a time and place for everything, but the debate is for drawing contrasts, and that's what I did.
What is going on between you and Ambassador Haley? It seems a little personal.
Well, I would say that there's a deep ideological divide in the GOP. There's an older generation that believes in funding foreign wars, and I think doubly it's even worse when people are making money off those foreign wars. I was a skeptic and critic of the Iraq War back when, and she was a supporter of it, and it's continued all the way through this agenda. But I think it takes a very dark turn when people are making money off of our foreign policy. I've been as vocal as anybody criticizing Joe Biden for the fact that his son gained $5 million in a bribe for what I believe is influencing their decisions to send our taxpayer money to Ukraine. But I can't criticize Biden credibly for that when Republicans are equally guilty of the same thing, or worse in her case, after stepping down from the UN, becoming a military contractor, joining the board of Boeing, whose back she scratched for years as governor of South Carolina. And then now, after Hillary Clinton gave speeches, we criticized her for that. Now speeches to foreign actors making millions.
So Vivek,
I apply the same standard is what I say.
I follow you. You've been attacking her for a while on that. And she's surging in the polls. Polls that you cited before of Vivek is coming out swinging. You were positioned on the stage. It doesn't look like that line of attack is working with the supporters that you're trying to gain. Do you believe that you may have come off too strong, even though there may be some policy differences, some that Donald Trump even agrees with you on as well, who's the front runner? But do you think you're gaining ground, besides young voters, which is a critical electorate right now?
So I'll say three things to that, Lawrence. First of all, I think I exposed the media's double standards on that. In each of the last two debates, she's called me four-letter words. One of them was dumb and then scum. Last night's debate, I reveal that she doesn't know the first thing about foreign policy that she touts. And the thing they criticize me for already, the mainstream media, is daring to criticize her intelligence.
But I'm not asking
so
you
about the quiet part out loud, which is 2X chromosomes applies different standards in the media.
I'm not talking about
but
the
you're
media.
Talking about my strategy.
I'm asking you, how are you going to get the support of the people? Because that's what matters. None of us matter.
So I think these polls are way off, and I'll tell you why. Many of the people come into our events on the ground in Iowa. I mean, if you come to Iowa, where I'm heading now, see our crowd sizes versus the mainstream media narrative. It's a little bit like Trump in 2016. It's off. And many of the people coming are not traditionally polled caucus-going candidates. So if those people come out, we are going to deliver a major surprise on January 15th in Iowa. I have full confidence in that. But the other thing is what I told you at the beginning, Lawrence, is I'm not in this to play some political calculus. I will speak my convictions. I will speak them honestly. Sometimes that's difficult to hear. But if you want a candidate who's going to get in there and take down the deep state, somebody who's going to speak truth to power, then vote for somebody who is going to speak the truth to you. And sometimes the truth is uncomfortable. Sometimes that's a journey, and I don't think that that's going to be an immediate political calculus. And if I was listening to my political consultants, I'd be doing things differently. But I'm not. And I think people in this country are hungry for somebody who speaks the unvarnished truth. That's who I think will be rewarded in the long run. And I would rather speak the truth and even lose an election than to win by playing some political snakes and ladders. But my long-run bet is that's what's going to be most successful.
Vivek Ramaswamy, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
I'm going to send it back to you guys in New York. Steve, Ainsley, and Brian.
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't have FB to question
We couldn't
him.
ask him any questions.
But the problem, I just like to know, when his policy, it's just ridiculous on Russia and Ukraine. He says, tell Russia basically they can have Ukraine if they promise not to have an alliance with China. I mean, if there's...
He can hear us now.
Hey, Vivek.
I can hear.
Vivek, are you comfortable?
I can hear you.
Are you comfortable with Russia taking as much as Ukraine as they want? Are you comfortable pulling all our aid out? And do you really believe that Vladimir Putin will agree not to have an alliance with China?
I think we have to play hardball there and make a hard deal that requires any reneging on that deal to have major consequences.
Like what? Like sanctions,
so
like we have right now?
Well, look, I think that we have to be able to have real consequences, maximum pressure campaign. We have sanctions. We don't have a maximum pressure campaign. And I can go into the details of that, and I have at the Nixon Library and elsewhere. But what I'm saying, Brian, is the clear principles are this war doesn't advance U.S. interests.
Yes,
the
it does.
Russia-China
If you give
alliance
up
is the
Eastern
top
Europe,
threat that
if you
we
give
face.
up Eastern Europe, we'll be in a world war.
If I may ask you a question, if
right.
you ask the question, I want to make sure I
I'm just
answer
going to answer you.
I'll give you
It is in our interest.
Detailed contours of a deal. I think it is not in our interest to strengthen the Russia-China alliance, and I think our policy right now is driving Russia further into China's arms.
It's going to be done anyway. You cannot keep Russia from China.
I think Russia is going. I think the answer is we are driving Russia into China's hands. There are kinks in the armor of that relationship. Look at Russia sending weapons to India and to Vietnam after other meetings they've had. This is our opportunity. Nixon did this in 1972, and Brian, respectfully, people like you said the same thing, that Nixon couldn't do it. Well, it takes an outsider who's skeptical of that establishment. That's going to be me.
I was 7 years old.
But we can both, you and I are both students of history, and I trust you to know that.
Are you comfortable giving up Eastern Europe? Because you know they're already taking Moldova, already making moves on the Baltic already. They're taking more and more pieces of Georgia.
Tell you what I'm not comfortable
and all
with.
we've done is sit there and send blankets and MREs, and we got an invasion. So what is going to be next?
Because we have no idea how Ukraine has spent $200 billion of our money. We're forking over more taxpayer money.
Do you see how they fight? These guys are the best fighters in the world.
And I'm not going to stand for that.
Ukrainians are probably the best fighters in the world.
Ukraine is not some democracy.
Ukrainians fighting for their sovereignty. And they were invaded.
The news media has reported. Ukraine has actually assassinated a former presidential candidate from 2019.
So
but the media
naive.
doesn't like to report that.
So naive. You give up Ukraine, and then in a few years you'll be criticizing Joe Biden for giving up Ukraine.
I respectfully, we can respectfully, Brian, I think that if I called Nikki Haley naive, you guys would be having a conniption. Let's be honest about that. But you want to call me naive? I actually understand what the heck I'm talking about here.
Really?
Nixon did this in '72. We can actually split up the Russia-China alliance,
and what
advance
happened,
American interests,
I think
and protect
World War
our
II
homeland.
is your better example.
I think it is offensive.
World War II is your better example. One is a diplomatic approach, and one is an active war.
Germany. If you could have split up Japan and Germany, then I do think that you actually have a good example in World War II.
You were going to convince Hitler not to go with a fascist nation?
And I'm not talking about convincing anybody, Brian, but the fact of the matter is I think it is offensive that people would sooner use $200 billion of our resources to protect some other nation's foreign border that's not a democracy, when in fact we're not even doing that effectively here.
You can do both. It's not either or.
We're doing neither.
It's neither. It's not either or.
And that's the fact of the matter. And I think this neocon wisdom needs to be relegated to the dustbins of history.
Forget neocon wisdom. No one buys into that. Just give up Eastern Europe. Just give up Eastern Europe. Why not?
And Afghanistan. Look at those results. The same people that took it to Iraq and Afghanistan are trying to do this again in Ukraine, and it's already been a disaster. Time for the neocons
not
to admit
one
it
soldier is there. Not one American soldier is there.
Something they have done. Well, Lloyd Austin just threatened earlier this week that we are going to send our troops unless we pass that aid package, actually. So, Brian, you mark my words. Listen to Lloyd Austin, who's advancing the same policies as Nikki Haley.
He's saying he's going to send troops that they move to a NATO nation, not to Ukraine. Pay attention.
He expressly said that what's going to require sending troops if we don't actually pass
we have to
the
go.
Ukraine
he
aid.
said if
so
they
I think
take
that
a NATO
this is a
nation.
boneheaded foreign policy, and I think that the hard answer is that we need to protect Americans. That's the answer.
Thank you so much for joining the program.